One. What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Big Blue Drew 97 here to talk to you about 7 Deadly Sins. The Nanatsu no Taizai Manga Chapter 327. Yeah, titled The Man Named Escanor. I'm gonna be honest with you. Not a lot happens in this chapter. But what does happen in this chapter is Escanor kicking the Demon King's butt. No contest. He is soloing the Demon King. And that actually might be the case, what we get later on in the chapter, but I'll save that to the end. But yeah, let's start from the beginning. First of all, the Demon King just looking at Meliodas is just not Meliodas, my fault. Meliodas kind of comes up in this chapter, but is looking at Escanor and is basically thinking, oh yeah, I remember that form of yours. Yeah, you literally beat up both of my sons with it. I was able to watch it from Purgatory. He's like, huh, this is gonna be interesting. And he just takes his sword. I don't have a sword on me, but like he takes his sword and he resheaths it, and I'm like, oh, here's where the cockiness comes in, because it leads to what the most obvious thing that you could have between two big bulky men. They immediately get into a fist fight, but before that happens, what's weird is that Escanor calls out the Demon King as the King of Gods. And even the Demon King begins to question it. Now that may be like a translation error, but what I got from that is like, this is basically Escanor saying, you're like the strongest thing in existence. I'm about to kick your butt. And by kicking your butt, I already proved what I already knew. I'm just proving this to the entire world that yes, I can kill a god. And I feel as if like that is kind of the pinnacle of pride, is that you are, especially in your strength, that you are so strong that you can compete with God itself in this world, which he does, and he kind of has, or at the very least, like high class power of gods through Escanor's, through Meliodas and Zeldatros's powers. So it's like, and even if you want to go with Mael, who was like the third brother, who was actually just the fourth archangel that everyone forgot, he's technically beaten all three. So it just makes logical sense that he's also going to beat the Demon King, or at least like do some massive damage to him so that everyone else can come after him. Which is probably a little bit foreseen when like Diane asks to help, and he says, no, if you were to basically interrupt this fight, you will not be forgiven. And he talks about how the time has come. And what that time is, well, we're not 100% sure. It is said like what actually that time is. It's an oath, but we don't know what that oath is. Even to the point in which like Meliodas and Merlin are just looking, and like, especially Merlin is like, Escanor, which is probably the best thing that she could have said, because technically Escanor loves her. And like, by the fact that she's like saying his name, I think she is acknowledging like not just his love, but the strength that he actually has as a normal human. Because when it comes to the 7 Deadly Sins, for the most part, everyone on that team except Escanor is not human in a form sense. Like Merlin is immortal to an extent, or has like eternal magic, and is like a little like kid who got blessed by like the god and the demon. Meliodas is a demon himself. Bond at one moment was indestructible. Well, it was immortal. He could not be killed, but now he's like basically indestructible. You cannot hurt him much. Diane is a dragon. Diane is a giant. King is an elf, and Gother is a puppet. So like, none of them are actually really human, except Escanor, and he has shown to be the strongest person, which is like a thematic sense of like, the humans are like the lowest class of like all of these races, but the strongest being in the world is human. So it's like that dichotomy, which is very interesting, especially since we've seen what Escanor has gone through his entire life. He's always had this power. And it's just that people that look down upon him because he had the power, which is why he developed his pride. But that's just like a side topic for what that could possibly is. We get to the main topic, which is just Escanor in his the one form, facing down the Demon King. And what's something that's interesting about this scene is that they're almost at the same height. But Escanor is slightly higher. And because of that, he's looking down at the Demon King. And at the same time, the Demon King's eyes are looking up. Which just shows how prideful, like, it, especially the one form is. Because when you look at them side by side, like, they basically just look like bodies of aura and, like, power oozing out of them. So it's like that just also like ties to like Escanor's like idea of like, I am so prideful, I look down upon everyone, even God himself. So that's a great like another form of dichotomy in this chapter, and it's like a fair amount. But as soon as like that's over, Escanor just comes and punches the Demon King, and the Demon King retaliates with a punch to the face. That's basically what this entire chapter is, just them punching each other. And what's great is the Demon King bleeds, Escanor bleeds, and it's just a continuous back and forth. But then there's a point in the fight where like it's so strong that it almost blows like the 7 deadly sins away just by the force of them punching each other. But it is shown that like the Demon King seems to be like taking like the lead, and it's like you can't like compete with me. I am the literal Demon King. And then pushes Escanor back. But Escanor, in his pridefulest state, and like his most well-known thing to say to his enemies is basically, oh, those punches you were doing to me? Yeah, no. They did nothing. But before that, the Demon King is like, you might have beat my sons, but you definitely can't beat me. And he comes in with, he literally says, at least in this translation, not but an itch. That is what Escanor is saying. It's like, the punches that you did are just like, boosh, oh wow, yeah, that's a bad, oh, that's a scratch right there, oh gosh, oh, why is my face so itch? That's basically what he's saying. It's like, your punches meant nothing, they were itch. And as soon as like he retaliates, the Demon King's face is like that of like, I may die right now. So it's just like that clash between them, and it's just going back and forth, and he even like belittles the Demon King. Escanor belittles the Demon King, but he says, I couldn't even feel the blows, and he says, you're a disappointment. And then like the Demon King is just out of rage, just like, you ignorant sow, just goes in and then just punches him twice. But then Escanor headbutts the Demon King in the face. Demon King uppercuts him. Escanor goes in for his sword, his sword with his hand, and just slaps him. And everyone's just in shock. By like, this is so powerful, how can this be even happening? But then Bond makes a comment, it's like, yeah, but it's just a matter of time. And even in the end, the Demon King just says, wow, it's so glad, I'll give you this. You survived for a long while. But then he makes a comment, it's like, yeah, but victory is mine because your time is up. It's been a minute. It's been a minute, which at the very least, it's something like that rarely happens in anime, or at least in Devil Series. It's like time progresses somewhat normally. Like, when I mean somewhat normally, I mean like here, it's like this entire fight occurs in a minute. Like, technically, like, the fight with, like, Escanor and, Meliodas, that lasted a chapter, which was, like, equivalent to, like, a minute. So, like, at least, like, even when it comes to, like, the idea of, like, what happened with Elizabeth, like, she only had, like, 3 days left to live, and, like, the fight was over 2-day period, sort of, kind of. So, on that last day, everyone was like, oh, she's alive, and then the boulder came, like, after the end of, like, that last day, so, like, oh, time is still, like, relevant here. To a sense. But then, after he says that the minute is up, the Demon King just punches Escanor in the his stomach, basically, like in his like lower chest, in his pecs, in his mighty pecs. And at that moment, you think, oh well, he's done for. The minute has passed. He's probably dead. You have not been reading the Seven Deadly Sins much, if that is the conclusion that you came to. And what probably is the weirdest thing about this isn't the fact that he survives it, because obviously it's Escanor. He's greater than God himself. But what is interesting is how he survived, or what is giving him his power, because it's like the power of friendship. But this one is specific. It's like different with this. You can keep your oath. And with that, he turns into a form that looks even more powerful than the one. Which it could be just all the stored up like sun energy. Which scares the Demon King and even puts Escanor at a level that towers over the Demon King. And the Demon King was already large as he was. So this ties into what next chapter is going to be, which is, it's going to be a side story. Which King Sings Alone is what it's going to be, apparently. Which makes sense, because Seven Deadly Sins is filled with side stories. The side story is of like how Diane and King met. The side story for how Elizabeth and one of the reincarnations of Elizabeth and Meliodas met. Side story for Gother. Side story when like Diane and King went back to it. Like, there are a fair amount of side stories that like diverge from the plot, but they all tie in one way or another. And I think that this oath will show one of two things. It will show like the bond between Meliodas and Escanor, like why Escanor truly views the Seven Deadly Sins as friends, and why he's not like as prideful with them, or how his pride is through his friendship with them. And two, maybe this form of oath allows him to exceed past his current state of power, but in return would kill him. Because let's just say like there's an instance where it's like, oh yeah, through my pride, I cannot let someone so weak go off so easy, so he's gonna go full force. And maybe this one's like, no, treasure, like Meliodas says, treasure your life. Don't just throw your life away for something menial or something like that. So they could tie into that. But in all, this was a good chapter. Not like an amazing chapter, but it was a good chapter because there was Escanor fighting. And I feel as if like the main thing that you get from this chapter is just the power that the one has in comparison to the Demon King. And if it wasn't for the 1 minute time limit, then the Demon King would obviously go down against Escanor solo. But I think it also is like another one of the tropes is like, oh, he has this one restriction, but this one thing occurs, so the restriction doesn't really matter. But for me, I don't think Seven Deadly Sins is going to do that. I think that at this moment, the restriction will not matter, but there will be a new cost to it. Like, the cost of the one is you get immense power, itty bitty time span. I think with this, you get a lot of power, extended amount of time, you die afterwards. So it's like, kind of like Naruto, where Guy went all 8 gates, and that if you go all 8 gates, you die. But he didn't die because Naruto was there. But I think that in this instance, like, he's going to do that. He's going to die. And this is going to motivate the Seven Deadly Sins to defeat the Demon King. Now, there's still, like, a few things that... basically, the only real questions that we have right now is, like, what is the side story going to be about? And, like, how is it going to tie into, like, the main plot? It's obviously going to tie into the main plot, but, like, I'm wondering, like, what the story could be. In terms of High Enough, it's probably going to be emotional. We're going to learn probably more about Merlin and Meliodas and Escanor, because it is, like, an oath that he has, Escanor has with Meliodas. So, if anything, it's just going to be like a very fun or a very sad story, and at the end of it, it's going to tie back into this fight. Or it could just be like a 2 or 3 chapter long side story, because as far as I know, the side stories in Seven Deadly Sins aren't really that long. I mean, they can be, like with Diane and King, but for the most part, they're not as long. At most, they're like 2 or 3 chapters each. So it may be 2 or 3 chapters, and we may learn more about Merlin. We may get more development for Merlin because we don't have that, and we may get significantly more for Escanor as well. But yeah, this is my review of Seven Deadly Sins. I thought, like I said, I thought it was really good. I enjoyed the action in it. If I were to give it a score, I'd probably give it like a 3.5. Which is, it's good. Like, it's mainly a brawl fest. It's like mainly 2 characters beating each other up, and that in its essence is great. It's not great like for story development, but it's just a great part of a shonen manga. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this review, and hopefully I'll be able to catch y'all next time. So goodbye for now. Woo! That was useless.